They called it the ghosting of the century. One minute, Madeline stood in the kitchen of a cramped one-bedroom apartment in downtown Seattle washing her boyfriend's dishes. The next morning she was gone. No note, no fight, no shattered glass, just an empty closet and a cold side of the bed. For 48 hours the internet painted her boyfriend Liam as the heartbroken victim of a cold-hearted woman. The world wept for him. But then the paparazzi photos dropped. Madeline wasn't missing. She was 300 miles away, stepping out of a matte black helicopter onto the private landing pad of Dominic Thorne, the most notorious ruthless billionaire on the West Coast. Why did she run? And why was she wearing a coat worth more than Liam's entire life savings? The answer isn't what you think. It wasn't an affair. It was revenge. The silence in the apartment was heavier than the rain battering the window pane. It was October 14th, a Tuesday. Inside the small fourth-floor walk-up on 4th Avenue, the air smelled of stale coffee and the lingering scent of Liam's cheap cologne. Maddie Beauchamp, sat on the edge of the bathtub, her hands trembling. She wasn't trembling from cold. She was trembling from a rage so pure, so white-hot, that it felt like ice in her veins. In her hand, she held an iPad. It was Liam's. He had changed the passcode 3 weeks ago, claiming security updates, but Liam was a man of habit. He had used the same passcode since high school, 10/24/88, his mother's birthday. The screen was still glowing, illuminating Maddie's pale face. It displayed a chain of emails and a series of bank transfers that effectively dismantled the last 4 years of her life. 4 years. That's how long she had supported Liam Harper. She had waited tables, taken freelance copywriting gigs, and skipped meals so Liam could focus on his visionary tech startup Ether Systems. She believed in him. She believed him when he said they were partners. She believed him when he said the patent was in both their names. But the email open in front of her, time-stamped 4:15 p.m. that afternoon, said otherwise. From Marcus Sterling, venture capitalist, to Liam Harper. Subject: finalizing the buyout. Removal of liability. Liam, the board is ready to sign. As discussed, the $12 million payout goes to your private offshore holding. Regarding the Madeline issue, once you legally sever ties and evict her, the intellectual property is solely yours. Her name isn't on the registry as you promised. You're in the clear. Just make sure she's gone before the IPO launches next month. We can't have her claiming she wrote the source code. Maddie didn't cry. Crying implies sadness. This was a demolition. She stood up and walked into the bedroom. Liam was asleep, his mouth slightly open, one arm thrown carelessly over the empty space where she usually lay. He looked innocent. He looked like the man who had proposed to her with a plastic ring 3 years ago, promising to replace it with a diamond one day. She looked at the plastic ring sitting on the nightstand. She didn't scream. She didn't wake him up to demand an explanation. She knew Liam. He was a gaslighter of the highest order. If she woke him, he would spin it. He would say the email was a misunderstanding, a draft. He would talk until she was confused and apologizing to him for snooping. Not this time. Maddie pulled a single suitcase from under the bed. She moved with the precision of a ghost. She packed only the essentials: her laptop, her hard drive, which contained the original metadata of the code she had written for him, 3 changes of clothes, and her passport. She left the clothes he bought her. She left the photos of them in Cabo. She left the coffee machine she loved. At 3:12 a.m. she zipped the bag. The sound was like a gunshot in the quiet room, but Liam didn't stir. He was deep in a dream where he was rich, famous, and alone. Maddie walked to the kitchen counter. She took the house key off her ring and placed it gently on the granite. Beside it, she placed the iPad, still unlocked, glowing with the damning email. She didn't write a note. A note would give him closure. A note would give him words to twist. Silence. Silence is a mirror. When you scream at silence, the only thing you hear is your own desperation echoing back. She opened the front door, stepped into the hallway, and closed it. The click of the lock engaging was the final period at the end of a very long, Very painful sentence. Downstairs, a black SUV was idling in the rain. It wasn't an Uber. It was a Cadillac Escalade with tinted windows, the kind used by diplomats and heads of state. The driver, a man with a neck as thick as a tree trunk, stepped out and opened the back door. "Ms. Beauchamp?" he asked, his voice gravel. "Yes," Maddie said, not looking back at the apartment building. "Mr. Thorne is waiting for you in Malibu. The jet is fueled at Boeing Field." "Let's go," she said. As the car pulled away, Maddie didn't look at the window where Liam slept. She looked at her phone. She opened her banking app. Balance $411. Then she opened a blocked contact. The name read Dominic Thorne. She unblocked it and sent a single text message. "I have the proof. I'm coming. You better keep your end of the bargain." 3 seconds later, the reply came. "The gates are open, Madeline. Welcome to the war." Liam Harper woke up at 8:30 a.m. with a smile on his face. Today was the day he was going to buy a Porsche. The advance from the investors was supposed to hit his secret account by noon. He reached over to the other side of the bed to shake Maddie awake, to tell her to make coffee, maybe give her a vague hint that big things were coming, without actually telling her he was about to dump her. His hand hit the cold mattress. "Maddie," he mumbled, sitting up. The bathroom door was open. Dark. The kitchen was silent. He got up, scratching his chest, assuming she had gone for a bagel run. He walked into the kitchen, annoyed. He wanted coffee now. "Babe, did you pick up?" He froze. The counter was empty, save for 2 things: her key and his iPad. A cold prickle of unease ran down his spine. He walked over and picked up the iPad. The screen had timed out, but when he pressed the button, it didn't ask for a code. It opened to the last used app. The email from Marcus Sterling. Liam felt the blood drain from his face. His knees actually buckled, and he had to grab the counter to steady himself. "No, no, no," he whispered. He ran to the bedroom. He threw open the closet. Her side was thinned out. Her laptop, the one with the backup drives, was gone. Panic, sharp and jagged, clawed at his throat. It wasn't that he missed her. It was that Maddie was the architect. Liam was the face, the salesman, the charm. But Maddie wrote the code. Maddie built the back end of Ether Systems. Without her, the system required maintenance he didn't know how to perform. And worse, if she proved she wrote it, the deal with Sterling was dead. He grabbed his phone and dialed her number. "The number you are trying to reach has been disconnected or is no longer in service." He dialed again. Disconnected. He checked WhatsApp. Profile photo gone. Blocked. Instagram. Account not found. She hadn't just left. She had erased herself. Liam's panic shifted into survival mode. He was a narcissist, and narcissists do one thing better than anyone else: they control the narrative. If Maddie was gone, she could be a threat. Unless he made her look crazy. Unless he made her look like a villain before she could say a word. At 10:15 a.m., Liam Harper posted a photo on his Instagram story. It was a black screen with a broken heart emoji. At 11:00 a.m., he went live on TikTok. He looked disheveled. He messed up his hair on purpose, and his eyes were red. He had rubbed them hard with a towel. "Guys," he said to the camera, his voice cracking perfectly. I don't know what to do. Maddie is gone. She just left. No note, nothing. I woke up and she was vanished. I'm worried she's having a mental break. She's been acting so erratic lately, talking about paranoia, about people watching her. If anyone sees her, please tell me she's safe. I just want her home." The internet predictable as the tides ate it up. Within 3 hours, the hashtag #HardFindMaddie was trending. Thousands of comments poured in. "OMG, Liam, stay strong. She sounds unstable, bro. You deserve better. We are looking for her." Liam sat on his couch watching the likes roll in, feeling a sick sense of satisfaction. He had planted the seed. If Maddie tried to release the evidence now, he would say it was faked, a product of her mental instability. He was winning. Then his phone buzzed. A notification from TMZ. Breaking news. Missing Seattle girlfriend spotted living it up in Malibu at billionaire Dominic Thorne's estate. Liam's heart stopped. He clicked the link with trembling fingers. There were photos. High-definition long-lens paparazzi shots. They showed a sprawling glass-walled mansion perched on a cliff overlooking the Pacific Ocean. The Iron Fortress, they called it. The home of Dominic Thorne, a man known as the Data Warlord. A man who had destroyed 3 competitors in the last year alone. A man Liam had tried to get a meeting with for 5 years and failed. And there on the balcony, wrapped in a white cashmere blanket holding a glass of red wine, was Madeline. She wasn't crying. She wasn't looking erratic. She was looking directly at the camera lens. And she was smiling. Standing behind her with a hand possessively on the railing next to her was Dominic Thorne himself. He was wearing a dark suit, no tie, looking like Lucifer on vacation. The headline read, "While her boyfriend cries on TikTok, Madeline Beauchamp moves into $80 million fortress with tech mogul." Liam threw his phone across the room. It shattered against the wall. "Thorne," he hissed. He didn't understand. Maddie didn't know Dominic Thorne. Maddie was a girl who bought generic brand cereal and wore Converse sneakers. Dominic Thorne was a shark who ate companies for breakfast. Their worlds shouldn't touch. Unless Maddie had been playing a game much longer than Liam had. The air inside the Iron Fortress, Dominic Thorne's Malibu estate, was different from the air in Seattle. It didn't smell like rain and exhaust fumes. It smelled of sea salt, ozone, and aggressive wealth. The house was an architectural marvel of concrete and glass cantilevered over a cliff edge, as if defying gravity itself. Madeline stood in the center of the grand living room. Her cheap suitcase looked ridiculous sitting on the imported Italian marble floor. She wasn't looking at the view. She was looking at Dominic Thorne. In the tabloids, Dominic was painted as a recluse, a brilliant sociopath who had coded his first algorithm at 12 and made his first billion at 22. In person, he was imposing. He stood 6'3", wearing a crisp navy button-down with the sleeves rolled up, revealing forearms that hinted he spent his stress in a boxing ring, not a therapy chair. He was pouring 2 glasses of amber liquid from a crystal decanter. 62-year-old McCallan, Dominic said, his voice a deep, smooth baritone that seemed to vibrate through the floorboards. He walked over and held a glass out to her. "You look like you need it. Watching your ex-boyfriend performance? Art his grief on national social media is thirsty work." Maddie took the glass but didn't drink. Her eyes were sharp. "I didn't come here to drink, Dominic, and I didn't come here to be your charity case." Dominic smirked, taking a sip of his own scotch. "I know. You came here because you are the only person on the West Coast who realized that the encryption key for ether systems is flawed, and because you know that I know it. This is the twist the world didn't know. This wasn't a random hookup. This was a merger. 3 months ago, Maddie had started noticing inconsistencies in Liam's behavior. The late nights, the hushed phone calls, the way he angled his screen away from her. She wasn't a jealous girlfriend. She was a data analyst. She looked for patterns. When she hacked into his cloud storage using the password he was too lazy to change, she didn't find another woman. She found the draft contracts with Marcus Sterling. She found the plan to erase her. Most women would have confronted him. Maddie, however, was the daughter of a poker player. She knew you never show your hand until the river card is dealt. Instead of screaming, she wrote a script. A dead man's switch embedded deep in the source code of the software she had built for Liam. Then she cold emailed the one man who hated Marcus Sterling more than anyone, Dominic Thorne. "You saw the email from Sterling?" Maddie asked, her voice steady. "I did." Dominic walked to the massive floor-to-ceiling window. "Sterling is a shark, but he's a sloppy shark. He thinks cutting you out saves them 15% equity. He doesn't realize that without you, the architecture collapses." Dominic turned back to her, his eyes cold and calculating. "So here is the deal, Madeline. You stay here. You let the world think you're my mistress. You let Liam and the media drag your name through the mud. You let them call you a gold digger, a whore, a traitor. You say nothing. And in exchange, Maddie asked. In exchange, Dominic stepped closer, invading her personal space. He smelled of sandalwood and power. I give you the resources to legally dismantle them. I have the best lawyers in the country. We don't just sue them for what they owe you. We wait until the IPO launches in 3 weeks. We wait until the stock price hits its peak. And then you trigger the dead man's switch. Crash the system, Maddie whispered. Crash the stock, Dominic corrected. Bankrupt Sterling. Destroy Liam's reputation permanently. And when the dust settles, I buy the technology for pennies on the dollar, and I put you in as CEO. Maddie looked at him. It was a deal with the devil. She would have to endure weeks of public humiliation. She would have to watch Liam play the victim while the world spat on her. Why? She asked. Why help me? You could just steal the code yourself. Dominic's face darkened. For a second, the billionaire mask slipped, revealing something raw underneath. Marcus Sterling destroyed my father's company 20 years ago. He drove him to an early grave over a patent dispute. I don't want money, Madeline. I have more money than God. I want Sterling's head on a platter. You are the blade I'm going to use to cut it off. Maddie took a long sip of the 62-year-old scotch. It burned, but it warmed the ice in her chest. Deal, she said. Good. Dominic clicked his glass against hers. Go get some sleep. Tomorrow the paparazzi will be swarming the gates. You need to look like you're enjoying it. Wardrobe has already been filled with clothes that scream, I don't care about your opinion. Wear them. As Maddie walked toward the guest wing, which was larger than her entire apartment building, she stopped. Dominic. Yes. Liam is going to come for me. He's weak, but he's vindictive. Dominic laughed, a dry, humorless sound. Let him come. My security team consists of former Mossad and Navy SEALs. If Liam Harper sets foot on this property, the only thing he's leaving with is a severe limp. The next 7 days were a study in psychological warfare. Just as Dominic predicted, the narrative spun out of control. Liam Harper was no longer just a tech bro, he was America's sweetheart. He hired a PR crisis team, Fixer and Associates, known for burying scandals. They went to work painting Madeleine Beauchamp as the villain of the decade. Day 3 headlines. New York Post, from rags to riches. The waitress who broke a tech genius's heart to bed a billionaire. BuzzFeed. 10 signs your girlfriend is a narcissist like Maddie Beauchamp. Twitter trend. Team Liam. 1.2 million tweets. Liam went on Good Morning America. He wore a soft beige sweater to look approachable. He sat across from the interviewer, looking tired and soulful. Liam paused, wiping a non-existent tear. I just feel stupid, you know. I tried to teach her everything. I taught her how to code. I brought her into Ether. And she used me as a stepping stone to get to Thorn. I guess $12 million wasn't enough for her. She wanted billions. Maddie watched the interview from the media room in Dominic's mansion. She was eating a bowl of popcorn, her legs curled under her. He taught me to code, she shouted at the screen, a kernel flying from her mouth. He still types with 2 fingers. He thinks Python is a type of snake. Dominic was sitting on the sofa behind her, reading a briefing on his iPad. He didn't look up. He's rewriting history. It's effective. A lie travels halfway around the world while the truth is putting on its shoes. I hate him, Maddie growled. I want to tweet, just one tweet. I have the commit logs proving I wrote the core kernel in 2021. No, Dominic commanded. His voice was sharp. You engage, you lose. If you defend yourself, you look guilty. You look like you're panicking. Silence is power, Madeline. Let him punch the air. He'll tire himself out. But Liam didn't tire out. He escalated. On day 5, the lawsuit arrived. A drone actually flew over Dominic's gate and dropped a large manila envelope onto the infinity pool deck. It was theatrical, illegal, and clearly done for the cameras stationed on the cliffside. Dominic's security fished it out. Maddie opened it on the patio table. The wind whipped her hair across her face as she read the legal summons. Plaintiff Ether Systems and Liam Harper defendant. Madeline Beauchamp charges. Grand larceny. Corporate espionage breach of non-disclosure agreement. He's suing me for $50 million, Maddie said, her voice trembling slightly. He claims I stole the proprietary laptop and that I'm trying to sell trade secrets to you. Dominic picked up the document. He scanned it, his expression unreadable. "This is good," he said. "Good? How is this good?" "I don't have $50 million, Dominic. I have $400 and a suitcase of clothes you bought me." Dominic tossed the papers onto the table. "It's good because he just made a fatal error. By suing you, he has opened the door to discovery." He looked at her, his blue eyes intense. "Do you know what discovery is, Maddie?" She shook her head. "It means both sides have to legally turn over all evidence relevant to the case. Emails, text messages, hard drives. If he hadn't sued you, we would have had to leak the info illegally. Now, we can demand his private communications with Marcus Sterling legally. We can depose him under oath." Dominic smiled. It was a terrifying smile. "He thinks he's putting pressure on you. He just handed us the murder weapon." But the pressure was getting to Maddie. It wasn't the lawsuit, it was the isolation. She was a pariah. Her friends from Seattle had blocked her. Her mother had called crying, asking if it was true she was sleeping with Dominic for money. That night, a storm rolled in off the Pacific. Thunder shook the glass walls of the mansion. Maddie couldn't sleep. She wandered down to the library, a massive room filled with first editions. She found Dominic there. He wasn't working for once. He was sitting by the fireplace staring into the flames. He looked up as she entered. She was wearing one of his oversized t-shirts, her hair messy. "Regretting it?" he asked quietly. "I miss my life," she admitted, sitting on the leather ottoman opposite him. "I miss being anonymous. I walked out of that apartment to save my dignity, and now the whole world thinks I have none." Dominic leaned forward. The firelight danced on his face. "Dignity isn't what people think of you, Madeline. It's what you know about yourself. The world loves a tragedy and they love a villain. Right now, you're the villain. But everyone loves a redemption arc even more." He stood up and walked over to her. For the first time, the dynamic shifted. He wasn't the general commanding a soldier. He was a man looking at a woman he respected. "You aren't the girl Liam Harper threw away," Dominic said softly. "You're the woman who is going to burn his kingdom down. Don't forget that." He reached out, hesitating for a moment, and then tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. His fingers lingered against her jawline. His skin was warm. Maddie's breath hitched. The tension in the room spiked, electric and sudden. It wasn't part of the deal. It wasn't part of the plan. "Dominic," she whispered. "Go to bed, Maddie," he said, his voice rough. He pulled his hand away. "We have a deposition to prepare for tomorrow, and I need you to be sharp, because Marcus Sterling is flying in personally, and he isn't coming to talk." The next morning, the news broke again, but this time it wasn't about Maddie. A video had leaked. Not from Liam, not from Maddie. It was an anonymous leak to YouTube. The video was grainy, taken from a security camera inside a high-end Seattle restaurant 3 weeks prior. It showed Liam Harper having dinner with a woman. They were laughing. He was holding her hand. The woman wasn't Madeline. It was Chloe Sterling, the 22-year-old daughter of Marcus Sterling, the venture capitalist. The caption on the video read, "The real reason Liam Harper kicked his girlfriend out, the billionaire's daughter." Maddie stared at her phone. Liam hadn't just cut her out for business. He had cut her out because he was trading up into the Sterling family dynasty. Dominic stood behind her, watching the chaos unfold on the news ticker. "Did you leak that?" Maddie asked, looking up at him. Dominic buttoned his suit jacket. "I told you, Maddie, I have eyes everywhere. Liam didn't just steal your code. He stole your life to make room for his new fiancée. Now the public knows he's a cheater. The narrative is cracking. He held out his hand to her, ready to go to court and shatter the rest of it. Maddie took his hand. Her grip was iron. Let's go. The conference room on the 42nd floor of the Sterling Capitol building in downtown Los Angeles was designed to intimidate. The walls were glass overlooking the smoggy sprawl of the city. The table was a slab of black marble that looked like a tombstone. This was the deposition. On one side of the table sat Liam Harper Marcus Sterling and an army of 5 lawyers in shark gray suits. Liam looked refreshed. The video scandal with Chloe Sterling had dented his nice guy image, but Marcus Sterling had spun it effectively. They claimed Liam and Maddie had been broken up for weeks before he started seeing Chloe. They claimed Maddie was a bitter ex-employee trying to extort the company. On the other side sat Madeline Beauchamp and Dominic Thorne. They had no army, just one lawyer. A woman named Evelyn Vance, who was 70 years old, wore bright red lipstick, and had successfully sued the U.S. government 3 times. Dominic sat back in his chair looking bored. He checked his watch pointedly. "Let's get this over with," Marcus Sterling grunted. "My client has a company to launch in 2 weeks. The lead lawyer for Sterling, a man with a face like a bulldog, turned a camera on. "This is the deposition of Madeline Beauchamp, case number 4922B. The questioning began. It was brutal. For 3 hours they grilled Maddie. They asked about her mental health. They asked about her spending habits. They asked if she was sleeping with Dominic Thorne for money, to which Evelyn Vance objected so loudly she knocked her water glass over. They were trying to break her. They wanted her to scream, to cry, to look unstable on camera so they could show the jury she was unreliable. Maddie sat with her hands folded in her lap. She wore a simple black dress. She looked at a spot on the wall and answered in monosyllables. "No. Yes. I don't recall." Finally, the bulldog lawyer leaned in. "Ms. Beauchamp, let's cut to the chase. Did you or did you not write the source code for the EtherCore algorithm?" The room went silent. This was the moment. If Maddie said yes, they would demand she prove it right now. They would bury her in technical audits that would drag on for years, draining her funds. They would claim she wrote it while employed by Liam, making it his property anyway. Maddie looked at Dominic. He gave a barely perceptible nod. Maddie looked into the camera lens. "No," she lied. "I didn't write it. Liam did." Liam's head snapped up. Marcus Sterling narrowed his eyes. They hadn't expected that. They expected a fight. You admit it," the lawyer stammered. "I helped," Maddie said softly, playing the part of the defeated woman. "I ran coffee. I fixed typos. But the genius, the architecture, that was all Liam. I just want credit for supporting him." A smug, victorious smile spread across Liam's face. He thought he had won. He thought she was folding under the pressure. "Good," the lawyer said, practically salivating. "So you admit you have no claim to the IP?" "I suppose not," Maddie whispered. Dominic kicked her gently under the table. A signal. Phase 1 complete. "Now," Evelyn Vance said, her voice rasping like sandpaper, "I believe it's Mr. Harper's turn." They swapped seats. Liam sat in the hot seat, adjusting his tie, looking like the king of the world. Evelyn Vance didn't ask about his love life. She didn't ask about the breakup. She placed a single document on the table. It was a printout of the code's header. "Mr. Harper," Evelyn said, "you heard Ms. Beauchamp. She says you are the sole architect. Is that correct?" "It is," Liam said, puffing out his chest. "I spent 4 years of sleepless nights building Ether. And you understand, you are under oath." "I do." "And you attest," Evelyn continued, her eyes gleaming, "that every line of code in the EtherCore v2.0 was written by your hand, or under your direct supervision, and that you fully understand how it functions. I know every line, Liam said arrogantly. It's my baby. No one else has a back-end key. No one else knows the encryption sequence. No one, Liam said. Just me. Thank you, Evelyn said. She closed her folder. No further questions. Marcus Sterling looked suspicious. It had been too easy. But Liam was beaming. He leaned over to Maddie as they were packing up. Smart move, Maddie, he whispered, his voice dripping with condescension. I'll cut you a check for 50 grand. Go start a new life. Maybe buy some better clothes. Maddie looked at him. Her eyes were dry. Enjoy the launch, Liam. As they walked to the elevator, the heavy glass doors closed behind them, shutting out the Sterling team. The moment the elevator doors pinged shut, the tension broke. Dominic let out a low, dark laugh. He took the bait, Dominic said. Hook, line, and sinker. Maddie exhaled, leaning against the mirrored wall of the elevator. Her legs felt like jelly. I can't believe he's that arrogant. Narcissists always are, Dominic said. He turned to her. The elevator was descending rapidly, making her stomach flip. By stating under oath that he is the sole author and that he understands every line, he just dug his own grave. Because he doesn't understand it, Maddie said, a cruel smile finally touching her lips. He doesn't know about the logic bomb I planted in line 40,000. And because he denied anyone else has access, Dominic added. When the system crashes, he can't blame you. He's legally liable for the failure. It's fraud, securities fraud, perjury. He's not just going to lose the company, Maddie. He's going to prison. The elevator reached the lobby. Dominic didn't step out immediately. He blocked the door with his hand. You were incredible in there, he said, his voice low. He looked down at her, his expression intense. Most people would have cracked. You didn't even blink. I learned from the best, Maddie said, looking up at him. The chemistry that had been simmering for a week finally boiled over. It wasn't a romantic movie moment with violins. It was desperate and adrenaline-fueled. Dominic stepped forward and kissed her. It was a hard, possessive kiss, a release of all the anger and tension of the last few days. Maddie grabbed the lapels of his suit, pulling him closer. For a moment, they weren't conspirators. They were just two people who found solace in the same fire. When they pulled apart, breathless, Dominic straightened his tie. Let's go home, he said, his eyes dark. We have a company to destroy. 2 weeks later, the day of the IPO. The world was watching Ether Systems. It was the biggest tech IPO of the year. The valuation was set at $4 billion. The premise of the software was revolutionary, an AI-driven logistics cloud that could optimize global shipping routes in real time, saving companies billions. Liam Harper stood on the balcony of the New York Stock Exchange. He was wearing a $10,000 custom tuxedo. Chloe Sterling was on his arm, wearing a dress that cost more than Maddie's college tuition. Marcus Sterling stood behind them, looking like a vulture who had just spotted a carcass. Confetti was ready to fall. The bell was about to ring. In Malibu, the atmosphere was very different. Dominic's war room, a massive underground server room beneath the mansion, was humming. A wall of monitors displayed the live feed from CNBC, the stock ticker, and a complex terminal window running black code on a green background. Maddie sat at the main keyboard. She wasn't wearing designer clothes. She was wearing a hoodie and jeans. She looked like a hacker. She looked like herself. Dominic stood behind her chair, a hand on her shoulder. 2 minutes to market open, Dominic said. On the screen, the CNBC anchor was breathless. We are expecting Ether to open at $45 a share. Liam Harper, the boy genius, is about to become a very wealthy man. Boy genius, Maddie scoffed. Her fingers hovered over the enter key. Wait for it, Dominic cautioned. Let the bell ring. Let the trades execute. We need the investors to buy in. We need the money to be on the table before we burn it. On the screen, Liam grabbed the gavel. He grinned, waving to the cheering crowd below. He slammed the gavel down. Clang. The bell rang. The ticker symbol ATHR flashed on the screen. Open $4,500, $48.50, $52. People were buying. The stock was soaring. In minutes, the market cap hit $5 billion. Liam was technically a billionaire. Now, Dominic said, kill it. Maddie didn't hesitate. She pressed enter. The command she sent wasn't a virus, it was a key. The Ether software, which was currently running the logistics for 3 major shipping companies as a beta test for the launch, received the command. The code looked for a specific digital signature. It looked for Maddie's signature. When it found it, it executed the hidden script, Project Ghost. At the stock exchange, Liam was popping a bottle of champagne. Chloe was laughing. Suddenly, the massive screens behind them, the ones displaying the Ether logo and the real-time data map, flickered. The blue and white logo distorted. The map of the world turned red. A murmur went through the crowd on the floor. Traders stopped shouting. Everyone looked up. The screen went black. Then text began to scroll. Not code. English. System error, authorship mismatch. Core kernel locked. Please contact Administrator Madeline Beauchamp. Liam froze. The glass of champagne slipped from his fingers and shattered on the balcony floor. What is that? Marcus Sterling roared, grabbing Liam's arm. What is on the screen? I don't know, Liam stammered. It's a glitch. It's a hack. But it wasn't just the screens at the NYSE. Across the country, the shipping companies using Ether were reporting total system paralysis. Their trucks, their ships, their drones all grounded. Their dashboards were displaying the same message: property of Madeline Beauchamp, stolen asset. In Malibu, Maddie watched the stock ticker. ATHR $5,200, ATHR $4,000, ATHR $2,200. It was free falling. Panic selling. It's working, Maddie whispered. The automated trading bots are dumping it because the software is flagged as non-functional. Dominic handed her a headset. We're going live. They had set up a private stream hijacking the Ether corporate website. Since Maddie knew the back-end passwords that Liam never changed, she had administrative access. The video feed on the NYSE big screen cut away from the error message. It was replaced by a live video of Maddie. She was sitting in Dominic's chair. She looked calm, strong. Hello, Liam, Maddie said. Her voice boomed over the speakers of the stock exchange. It echoed in the silent trading floor. Liam looked at the giant screen, pale as a ghost. You told the world you wrote the code, Maddie said to the camera. You told the courts under oath that you knew every line, so fix it. She paused. If you wrote it, Liam, you know the bypass command. Go ahead, type it in, save your company. Liam stared at the keyboard of the terminal someone had shoved in front of him. His hands were shaking so hard he couldn't type. He didn't know the command. He didn't even know the programming language. He can't, Maddie said to the world. Because he didn't build Ether. I did. I built the engine, I built the security, and I built the kill switch. And since Mr. Harper stole my intellectual property and cut me out of the company, I have simply reclaimed my property. She leaned into the camera. The system will remain locked until the rightful owner is restored, or until the stock hits zero. Your choice, Marcus. ATHR $1,200. ATHR $6.50. It was a bloodbath. Billions of dollars in valuation were evaporating in seconds. Marcus Sterling turned to Liam. His face was purple with rage. You lied to me, Sterling hissed. You said she was a secretary. Marcus, I can fix this, Liam pleaded. You're finished, Sterling screamed. He shoved Liam aside. He pulled out his phone and dialed a number. In the war room, Dominic's phone rang. He put it on speaker. "Thorne," Dominic answered coolly. "Stop it!" Marcus Sterling's voice screamed over the line. "Stop the crash. We'll deal. We'll give her the money." "It's not about the money anymore, Marcus," Dominic said, his voice like ice. "You tried to ruin her. You tried to ruin me. Now you hold a bag of worthless stock." "What do you want?" Sterling begged. "I'll give you anything. The board will resign. I'll fire Liam. Just turn it back on." Dominic looked at Maddie. She held the power. "I want a public confession," Maddie said into the speakerphone. "From Liam, right now, on the balcony." There was a silence, then muffled shouting. On the TV screen they saw Marcus Sterling grab Liam by the lapels and drag him to the microphone. "Tell them!" Sterling screamed. Liam Harper, the boy genius. The golden boy stood before the microphones. He looked broken. He looked small. Liam's voice cracked. "I didn't write it. Madeline did. It's hers. It's all hers." The crowd on the floor erupted. The SEC officials were already moving toward the balcony. Maddie watched as two officers in uniform stepped onto the balcony and placed handcuffs on Liam Harper. She didn't smile. She didn't cheer. She just felt a massive weight lift off her chest. It was over. She typed one final command into her keyboard. "Unlock protocol auth Maddie." The red screens at the exchange turned green. The systems came back online. But the stock price was dead. The reputation of Ether was destroyed. The company was worthless in the hands of fraudsters. Dominic took the headset off her head. "You just committed the most expensive corporate sabotage in history," he said, looking at her with undisguised admiration. "I didn't sabotage it," Maddie said, standing up. "I just took back what was mine." Dominic walked over to the minibar and popped a bottle of champagne, not the cheap stuff Liam was drinking, but a vintage Dom Perignon. "To the new CEO of Ether Systems," Dominic said, handing her a glass. "New CEO?" Maddie asked. "The company is tanked. The stock is at $2. "Exactly." Dominic smiled. "Which means I'm going to buy a controlling interest in about 10 minutes for the price of a used Honda. And once I own it, I'm appointing you to run it. We'll rebrand. We'll rebuild. And we'll do it right." Maddie took the glass. She looked at the screen where Liam was being led away in cuffs, Chloe Sterling crying in the background. "To doing it right," Maddie said. They clinked glasses, but the story wasn't quite over. Because while Maddie had won the war, she still had to figure out what she was to Dominic Thorne. Was she just a business partner, or was she something more? The silence that followed the crash of the Ether Systems IPO was deafening. It wasn't the silence of emptiness, but the silence of a battlefield after the cannons have stopped firing. In the days following the Red Wedding of Wall Street, as the financial blogs were calling it, the narrative flipped so fast it gave the public whiplash. Liam Harper was no longer the victim. He was the pariah. The footage of him cowering on the balcony admitting he stole the code was played on a loop on CNN, Fox, and MSNBC. The SEC had frozen his assets. The Department of Justice was preparing an indictment for securities fraud, perjury, and corporate theft. And Madeline. She was no longer the gold-digging mistress. She was the avenging angel. Time magazine put her on the cover with the headline, "The Architect." But inside the Iron Fortress in Malibu, Maddie didn't feel like a hero. She felt exhausted. 3 days after the IPO, the adrenaline finally wore off. The lawyers had left. The deal was done. Dominic's holding company, Obsidian Corp., had officially acquired the assets of Ether Systems for $1.20 a share. It was a steal. Maddie stood in the guest bedroom, the room she had lived in for the last month. Her suitcase was open on the bed. She was packing. She folded the oversized t-shirt she had worn that night by the fire and placed it gently in the bag. The deal was over. The contract was fulfilled. She had destroyed Liam, and Dominic had destroyed Sterling. It was a transactional victory. She didn't want to assume that just because they had kissed in the elevator, or because they had shared champagne, that she was staying. Maddie Beauchamp was done letting men define her place in the world. If she stayed, she would always wonder if she was just a trophy of his victory, a souvenir from the war against Sterling. She zipped the bag. It was the same sound as that night in Seattle, but this time she wasn't running away in fear. She was walking away with her head high. She walked down the grand staircase, her heels clicking on the marble. Dominic was in the entryway. He wasn't wearing a suit today. He was wearing dark jeans and a black cashmere sweater. He looked less like a warlord and more like a man who had been waiting. He saw the suitcase. His jaw tightened, a muscle feathering in his cheek. "Going somewhere?" he asked. His voice was perfectly calm, but his eyes were turbulent. "The job is done, Dominic," Maddie said, stopping at the bottom of the stairs. "We won. You have the company. I have my reputation back. It's time for me to go figure out who I am when I'm not fighting a war." Dominic walked toward her. He didn't stop until he was toe-to-toe with her. He looked down at the suitcase, then up at her eyes. "Is that what you think this was?" he asked quietly. "Just a job." "Wasn't it?" Maddie challenged, though her voice wavered. "You needed a weapon against Sterling. I needed a shield against Liam. We used each other. That's business." Dominic let out a sharp, frustrated breath. "You are the smartest person I have ever met, Madeline. But when it comes to reading me, you are remarkably blind." He took a step closer, forcing her to tilt her head back to look at him. "I didn't agree to help you because I hated Sterling. I can crush Sterling in my sleep. I agreed to help you because I've been trying to hire you for 3 years. Maddie blinked. "What?" "I read your code," Dominic said intently. 3 years ago, I saw a patch you wrote on an open-source forum. It was brilliant, elegant. I tried to track down the user, but you were anonymous. When you emailed me, I didn't see a victim. I saw the one person who could keep up with me." He reached out and took the handle of her suitcase. His grip was firm. "I don't want a business partner, Maddie. I have 1,000 employees who fear me. I don't want another sycophant." He lowered his voice, the vulnerability in his tone shocking her more than any shouting match could. "I want the woman who had the courage to burn it all down. I want you. Not for the code. Not for the company. Just you." Maddie stared at him. Her heart was hammering against her ribs. This was Dominic Thorne, the man who never negotiated, who never pleaded, and he was asking her to stay. "I'm not easy, Dominic," she warned, tears pricking her eyes. "I have trust issues. I'm stubborn, and I will never ever let a man take credit for my work again." Dominic smirked. The arrogance was back, but it was softer now, warmer. "I would be disappointed if you did." He let go of the suitcase and framed her face with his hands. "Stay," he commanded, but it sounded like a request. "Run the company. Run this house. Run me if you want. Just don't leave." Maddie looked at the door, then back at the man who had given her the sword to fight her monsters. She smiled. "Okay, but I'm redesigning the kitchen. It's too cold." Dominic laughed, a genuine sound that echoed through the house. He kissed her, then, not like in the elevator, desperate and fleeting. This kiss was a promise. It was slow, deep, and tasted of a future that belonged entirely to them. 6 months later. The courtroom was packed. Liam Harper stood before the judge. He looked 10 years older. His hair was thinning, his designer suit replaced by a standard-issue orange jumpsuit. Marcus Sterling had cut a plea deal, throwing Liam under the bus to save his own skin. Chloe Sterling had broken off the engagement publicly on Instagram the day after the IPO crash. Liam was alone. "Mr. Harper," the judge said, peering over his spectacles, "for the counts of securities fraud, perjury, and grand larceny, this court sentences you to 8 years in federal prison, followed by restitution to be paid to the victims in the amount of $12 million. Liam closed his eyes as the gavel banged down. He looked back at the gallery, searching for a friendly face. There were none. But in the back row he saw her, Madeline. She was wearing a white power suit. She looked radiant, healthy, and untouchable. Beside her sat Dominic Thorne, his arm draped protectively over the back of her bench. Liam locked eyes with her. He mouthed the word, "sorry." Maddie didn't respond. She didn't smile. She simply nodded once, a final acknowledgement of a chapter closed, and stood up. She and Dominic walked out of the courthouse past the swarm of paparazzi. "Ms. Beauchamp, Ms. Beauchamp," a reporter shouted, shoving a microphone in her face. "How does it feel to see your ex-boyfriend go to prison?" Maddie stopped. She adjusted her sunglasses. "I don't feel anything," she said honestly. "I'm too busy." "Busy with what?" the reporter asked. "Building the future." Dominic answered for her, guiding her toward their waiting car. Not the black SUV this time, but a silver convertible top-down, ready for the Pacific Coast Highway. As they drove away, the wind in her hair, Maddie looked at the ocean. She touched the diamond on her left hand, not plastic this time, but a rare, flawless stone that caught the sunlight. She had lost a boyfriend who treated her like a servant. She had found a partner who treated her like a queen. She hadn't said a word when she left Liam that night in the rain, and she realized now she never needed to. Her success was the loudest sound in the world. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the story of how Madeleine Beauchamp turned a breakup into a billion-dollar empire. It's a reminder to everyone watching: never mistake silence for weakness. Sometimes the quietest people are the ones planning the loudest moves. If you enjoyed this story of revenge justice and a little bit of romance, please smash that like button. It really helps the channel grow. And I want to know what you think. Was Maddie's revenge too harsh, or did Liam get exactly what he deserved? Let me know in the comments below. Type Team Maddie. If you think she did the right thing, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss a story. We drop new dramas every week. Until next time, watch your back and keep your passwords safe.